So let's talk about some new and controversial Space Wolf helmets that can have your entire legion looking like an army of good boys. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today I thought we'd talk about one of Games Workshop's Horus Heresy upgrade sprues that seems to have wildly missed the mark for really quite a lot of Space Wolf players out there on the internet. As you can see, you can now have your Space Wolf army looking wolfier than ever, with a nice little snouted helm with some teeth and some cute little ears. Over the last few weeks in their Horus Heresy Thursdays, Games Workshop have been previewing some upgrade sprues for helmets for the various different legions, and at least for the most part they seem to have been fairly well received. Little sprues of helmets that hopefully add a little bit more of your legion or chapter theme to your army. They look like they work pretty well both for 40k and for Heresy miniatures. I think it's fairly safe to say though that on the internet these ones for the Space Wolves have got by far the most attention compared with any of the others, basically adapting the Corvus Beaky helmets into far less bird and far more doggy. Full-on wolf helms with a snub-nosed little snout, some vents where the whiskers would be, grills and stylized ears, and a nice little row of teeth below the snouty bit. There's definitely been a very mixed reaction to these from the internet in general, including a rather large Reddit thread on R30k that's got well over 300 comments. I do think that a lot of people genuinely quite like them, but there also seems to be quite a lot of backlash about sending Space Wolves even further down the all-wolf road, and perhaps a bit further away from the Vikings and space theme. To be fair to them, Space Wolf helmets that are actually shaped like wolf heads don't really seem to be anything particularly new in 40k. There's this one on the bottom right out of the Blood Claws kit, one with a slightly open mouth for the current Space Marine Firstborn upgrade sprue kit, which I must admit I'm really not a fan of, and I think that the new one is actually a lot better looking and more practical than this. And it seems that the demand for wolfy style helmets is strong enough that other companies have filled up the gap a bit from Games Workshop. For example, there's this compatible pack of wolf style heads from Spellcrow Miniatures. They're perhaps not too dissimilar, they have dispensed with the bitey teeth though that the new Games Workshop set has. I think out of Space Wolf collectors, a fair few people do quite like having a lot of wolfy styled heads in their army. I think though perhaps this Legion upgrade sprue has perhaps struck a nerve for a couple of different reasons. The fact that they come in packs of 10 kind of imply that you might well be fielding entire squads of wolf-helmed Space Marines, so you might have just about every single Space Wolf on the battlefield with a wolfy style head like this. And I feel that this would affect the aesthetic of the army maybe quite a lot more than say just having a few of those helmets dotted in around the force for flavour. For example, you can maybe have a set of those heads and maybe just use them on your squad sergeants or characters perhaps, if it made sense and you didn't have better heads lying around for them, just to make them stand out a bit more. As well as that, I think that people find them a little bit jarring for the Horus Heresy miniatures as well, just because in general for Horus Heresy type miniatures, the themes of the legions just tend to be a little bit more muted or practical. Maybe the personality of the individual legions more coming through in terms of the war gear that they're armed with, or their trinkets and talismans that they have in battle. And a lot of the gear often seems to have a bit more of a mass-produced and practical feel, as opposed to the more stylized and wacky things that you get in 40k. I feel like both themes are quite good to be honest, but for these wolfy helmets it does kind of feel like a 40k style bit, maybe supplanted onto a heresy body, which feels a bit jarring with quite a lot of people. For example, I did notice people discussing the Space Wolves 30k range in general on that Reddit thread. Perhaps a couple of the kits that were held as slightly better examples of Space Wolves and what they can do with them are things like the Grey Slayers kit on the left here, or the Varigir Terminators on the right. The Grey Slayers feel a lot more like fairly simplistic Viking melee type unit Space Marines, gear looking very practical and some rather brutal looking axes in their offhand, lots of grizzled beards and leather face masks strewn into the squad. The Varigir Terminators certainly have a bit more of the wolf theming, they've got some wolf pelts over them and under their shoulder pads and things, but maybe done in a slightly less overstated way and still very much feel like elite warriors of a household, as opposed to going really over the top with the wolfy theme. Obviously it's all a matter of personal taste though, and I'll be interested to hear down in the comments whether you prefer the 30k or 40k Space Wolves, what you think of these new helmets, and what sort of balance you think Games Workshop should strike between the themes of Vikings and space, or actual Space Marine Wolves charging into battle. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, or I'll certainly keep the regular 40k things coming. I do tend to post new things just about every day, and I do tend to talk about most of the interesting Games Workshop releases. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that the channel has a Patreon page if you're interested, and that is what allows me to keep these videos coming if you have been enjoying quite a few. Channel patrons do get a few rewards, including seeing certain videos early, and entry in the regular monthly prize draws, so feel free to check it out down in the video description if you're interested. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.